Hello YouTube. I know it's been a while since my last video, and my last video was a little icky because I included some disturbing footage from a rated R movie, but I feel like that was necessary to prove a point, especially when it comes to talk of sexuality, and sexuality is often, like the talk itself is often taboo. But anyway, what I wanted to continue was the video before that. The video where I was talking about my personal story of dilation and the breakup of my ex. So, what I want to talk about, well, it was kind of an emotional journey, but as I stated before, the journey was kind of necessary for me to grow as an individual. But it does leave me like a personal trauma because it's a personal lesson that I will never forget. The biggest thing that I learned from being heartbroken is two things. One, never force yourself to do anything just to be with someone. And two, never try to persuade or try to force the other person to love you back. If you really want romance to work, and this is something that I should have learned a long time ago, especially around my teenage years when my quote unquote hormones was starting to be active. What I should have learned is find a person that's attracted to you, and vice versa. In other words, you try to find a person that you're attracted to. In other words, the attraction has to go both ways. And once you find that, from there, snowball it. When I say snowball it, like build up that relationship, get to know each other, build up something meaningful. Because if you guys think about it, what this casual dating, this hookup culture taught us is that you could find relationship anywhere. But the question is, can you find a relation that is long term for many years to come? And if so, what are the ingredients? For me, what I understood is that the main key ingredient for a relationship to last long, healthy, but most importantly, happy, like genuinely happy that you're with somebody, is attraction. Attraction, and of course, sharing a common goal of the direction that you want to go to in life. Me, sadly, I did not have neither of those. Technically, with my ex, I did have the common goal, like a common ground with my ex. But the first point that I made about attraction, it was not there. The one thing that baffles me is why bother? Why did my ex bother to stay with me? And this is where I fell down the rabbit hole of how the two gender viewed dating. And this is part of my dilation story because what I understood is that a man and a woman will never see romance almost the same. They will never see romance prospectively the same. Romance is a different point of view between the two gender, if that makes sense. What I'm basically trying to say is this. Think of math. What's 2 times 5? 10. But other people will say you could get to 10 by adding 5 plus 5. It's the same equation but different perspective, different question of how to get to 10. And it's the same thing with romance. Romance between the two gender is viewed very differently. Us men, we view romance something like, it's hard to describe, but definitely a companion that you want to being physically, how do I say this? Obviously, the physical part has to be there. And I think that's a common ground between the two gender wants. But for us guys, we just want a physical companion to show affection. And of course, have a little pride of taking care of her. But for a woman, most women see romance as, aside from the physical attraction, because let's be real here, physical does matter. They want a man that they want to look up to. And this is a conversation that I had with women, and they all spout very similar ideas. And the most common idea that most women have when it comes to romance is they want a man that they want to look up to. Now, I recently been watching a podcast, and that podcast says that sometimes the biggest mistake that us men do is that we put women on a pedestal, and by doing so, that kind of robs the woman to prospectively view us as the superior. In other words, it robs the woman from looking up to us. Because when we put woman on a pedestal, the woman herself is essentially looking down on us, and that's a big mistake right there. And as I stated before, I know I sound like a broken record, but I gotta repeat this. Man and woman see romance very differently. That being said, what ended up causing the breakup with me and my ex is my realization that this relationship was not going to last long. But most importantly, my ex, she was staying with me just out of comfort. She was forcing herself. And despite that me and her had common grounds and common ideas for the future, it was very clear to me the attraction wasn't there. And the attraction itself was one-sided. And I knew it was only going to be a matter of time for my ex to break up with me, so I did her a favor. I ended up breaking up with her. Now, what's kind of ironic and funny of the aftermath of the breakup is that she ended up rebounding with a guy that she friend-zoned for nearly 10 years. No joke, guys. Nearly 10 years. And if you're curious about the age, I dated my ex when I was in my younger years. I'm trying to be discreet as possible, but I did date an older woman, so my ex was older than me. And we did have an age gap. But for the sake of discreet, I dated her when I was in my younger years, and she was barely in her 30s at the time. But as I stated, after the breakup, she rebounded with a guy that she nearly friend-zoned him for 10 years, and then they became official. Deep down in my gut, I knew that relationship was not going to work because of the lesson that I learned, and that lesson was attraction. That being said, if she friend-zoned the guy that she rebounded for 10 years, then that just, I don't know the words how to say this, but it's sort of like a reaffirming of what I've been believing in, that without attraction, relationship is gonna fail. And funny enough, approximately about 3 to 4 years later, my prediction came true. She eventually broke up with him. And deep down in my gut, I knew that was gonna happen. Because if a woman friend-zoned a man for nearly a decade, then that's a good reason for that. And if it's what I think it is, which is attraction, then there's no point. And this guy, just out of apathy, and when I say apathy, I mean this guy didn't care. As long as she's with her, that's all he cares about. But this guy didn't care about other people's opinion. I tried to warn that guy, but he did not care. So I let him be, and what happened? About 3 to 4 years once they became official, they broke up and never speak to each other again. And that friendship, quote unquote friendship, is utterly destroyed. And that just reaffirmed my belief about attraction in romance. And the reason why I'm making a YouTube channel discussing about sexuality, discussing about dating, is because everywhere around me in my personal life, I've seen relationship fail miserably, but when they fail, they sort of leave a imprint in my memory. And the main reason why is because it really baffles me when I see superior people that you think that are superior to you, and yet their world falls apart all because of a relationship that ends up destroying them. Since we live in the internet era, look up the celebrities, guys. The celebrities, they're a perfect example of how relationship can destroy you. But most importantly, those relationships in the celebrity world, they don't last long. Most of them are in third, fourth wife? Even the billionaires, they struggle to stay in the relationship. So what's the key formula when it comes to a long-lasting relationship? And I'm telling you guys, it's attraction. One of them is attraction. That's one of the keys. And there's literally a study that talks about that. So guys, I'm gonna end it here because I'm already hitting the 12-minute mark. But I'm glad that I'm discussing about it. And as years goes on, the pain of my memories of the breakup with my ex is slowly fading away, but the memory is still holding strong in my brain. So in the next video, I'm gonna discuss more about my story with the eye dilation thing, because the whole eye dilation story came about 3 years after my breakup with my ex. But guys, I'm gonna end it here, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.